Alright, I've got a Bible here in front of me, so I'm just going to start reading and making commentary. Alright, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate the water from water." So God made the expanses and separated the water under the expanses from the water above it. And it was so. God called the expanse sky. And there was evening, there was morning, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." A lot of people don't know what that means. What it's trying to say is that you can't cross species, which is a lie. The various kinds means that corn is corn, wheat is wheat, blah blah blah. But that's not true, because when corn started, it was a hard little thing that nobody could eat, and we bred it into what it is today. When banana it first started, it was a nut that you couldn't break it with your teeth. We bred bananas to be what they are by mixing them with other kinds. So this is almost like racism, saying that things belong in their own kind and they are allowed to mix outside of their own kind. Uh, but it says, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and the trees bearing fruit with the seed in it according to their kinds. And see, that's not true. They've got graples now. You can buy an apple that tastes like a grape. You can buy all kinds of crazy stuff. And God saw that it was good. So God saw this racism was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, and the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark the seasons and days and years. And let them be lights in the expanses of the sky to give light to the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. So this is the sun and the moon, and they think the moon creates its own light, but it doesn't. It bounces off the sun. He also made the stars. God set them in the expanses of the sky to give light to the earth. Okay, I want to stop here and talk about Mark Twain's version of creation. Mark Twain, he wrote a story about God's creation of the earth, and what he said is God went, and a flash of sparks appeared, and those were the stars. The sun wasn't a single star that he spent any time on. The earth was not a single thing he spent a bunch of time on. He just went when the universe was there, and he told the angels, "Look at the earth and how beautiful it is." And the angels said, "What are you talking about? I don't see the earth. I see a bunch of explosions. I see the stars." And he said, "No, you look closely. You got to look close, and there's the earth, and there's the people." And it wasn't 7 days and 7 nights. It was a moment of the explosion was the people, not it wasn't a focus of God. It was a byproduct of something amazing that God did. But anyway, that's Mark Twain. That's his version of it, and I believe it more than this, because this says that the earth was created first, then the sky, then the stars. Like that's first off backwards. That's second off. Why the fuck would God put so much focus on the dirt, and when the stars and all of that is so brilliant and amazing? Like it would take more time. Anyway, God set them in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and night, and to operate light from darkness. And God saw it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the expanses of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea, and every living and moving thing in which God the water teems, according to their kinds. According to their kinds, again. It's meaning that things aren't supposed to interbreed. They're not supposed to mix with each other. They're supposed to stick to their own kinds. And every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in numbers, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was every evening and there was morning the fifth day. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds. Again, according to their kinds. Livestock creatures. Livestock, creatures that move along the ground, and wild animals, which according to its kind, and it was so. So, they're saying there was no domestication. There was no point where humans tamed animals. Animals were just tame or wild. Cows were created to be cows, and chickens were created to be chickens, controlled by humans. They were never in the wild. They had no purpose other than to be food for humans, according to what I just read to you from the Bible. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw it was good. Again, all this racism is good to God. Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over the earth, and over their creatures that move along the ground. I believe when it says that we are created in God's likeness, it doesn't mean that God looks like a human. He doesn't have skin, he doesn't have facial hair, he doesn't have hair. What it means is that God is a makeup of cells, and those cells make up tissue, and that tissue makes up organs, and those organs make up organ systems, and those organ systems make up an organism. And we can see God in that each person is kind of like a cell, and when those cells come together, they create tissue. And so like a group of people is like the tissue of God, and then when those different tissues come together, they create an ecosystem, and that is an organ. The earth is an organ, and the solar system is like an organ, and then those systems come together to create organ systems, and then those organ systems come together to create God. So we are created in God's image, and that we are similar to the universe. The universe is a larger version of a human being, and it's not that it's a larger version of a human being, it's just that's the way things work. You need organization. You need one piece to work one way and another piece to work another way, and those two things come together to make something better than they would have been alone, and they make something living that would not have been living if they had not been working separately and in completely different ways. But anyway, God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth and subdue, and rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the air, and blah blah blah. This skipped the part where they rip the rib out, and woman is supposed to be made from the rib. Did you know women actually have one less rib than men, and they blame that on the fact that women, they say that were taken from Adam's rib. They pulled Adam's rib out, and it made that's what woman's made from, but Adam's made from dirt. Rule over the fish in the sea, the birds of the air, over everything living creature that moves on the ground. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food, and to all the beasts of the earth, and to all the birds of the air, and all the creatures that move to the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. No, it was not so, because some of these things with breathing life decided that we cannot have some of these fruit, the seed-bearing plants. Marijuana is one, poppy, cot. I could go down a whole list of things that Christians don't let you have that God says you should. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in their vast array. By the seventh day God had finished the work and the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day he rested from all his work, and God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of the creating that he had done. This is the account of the heavens and the earth and when they were created. When the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and no shrub of the field had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not sent rain on earth, and there was no man to work the ground, but streams came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. The Lord formed the man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Now the Lord God had planted the garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the east of what? Like east? But he put the man he had formed, and the Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. In the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river watering the garden flowed from Eden, and there it separated into 4 headwaters. The name of the first is the Pishon. It winds through the entire land of Havilah, where there is gold. The gold of the land is good, aromatic resin, and onyx is also there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It winds through the entire land of Cush, and the name of the third river is Tigris. It runs along the east side of Ashur, and the fourth river is Euphrates. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will surely die." First off, God lied. He didn't die when he ate it, so God's a liar. Plain and simple. Second off, knowledge of good and evil. First off, what is good and evil? Good and evil are opinions. They're not facts. So what it basically was a tree that allowed Adam to open his consciousness to the point where he could see that what God was doing was not necessarily good, and that it was a form of evil. That's all it was. It was basically like Adam took mushrooms and realized that his dad was a dick. Like that's the equivalent of what happened. Like the tree of knowledge was just some form of alkaloid that opened up Adam's mind. It allowed him to see that God was a slave driver, and then God disciplined them for doing what you'll see right here. The Lord God said, "It is not good for man to be. When you eat from it, you surely die." The Lord God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." Now the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the beasts of the field and all the birds of the air. He brought them to the man to see what he would name them, and whatever the man called each of the living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds of the air, and all the beasts of the field. But for Adam no suitable helper was found. So the Lord caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs. I guess it said he made a woman, but now he's making woman again. And closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and brought her to the man. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. For it is the reason a man will leave his father and mother, and be united to his wife. They will become one flesh." The man and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Alright, so that was the beginning of Genesis. I will end there, and I will start the next chapter in the next video.